too. Yes, thanks, everyone. Are you in Aksarai, Mali? Steve, are you in Aksarai? Livestone. You tried calling me yesterday. I didn't get you, bro. Ellen, how are you? Yeah, my people, we are not going to waste time this evening. We just start with the real thing. Believe me, I think our friend whose work we've been using, James Corbett, just concluded everything about his Bill Gates series. So we are going to conclude ours too. Like I've been telling our people, you know, when I said that I am suspecting something between this idiot Bill Gates and the Rockefellers, the smaller R's. Why did I say that then? Because I was seeing too many similarities. Even from the first video you watch it to find out that everything Rockefeller did is exactly what Bill Gates is doing. And they all seem to have knack for this eugenics program. And they're all going to learn a lot of things here today. And that guy, that stupid idiot, the expired vegetable oil, baby freeze, or whatever he calls himself. Someone told me that she watched the program, the way he was laughing and making fun of her, making jest of the thing. I'm like, that's exactly the type of people our own people listen to. You think they are smart? They are not. That they are in front of the camera does not make them smarter than you. Most of them, you are more informed than them. You are more informed than they are. You don't need to respect them if there is any other evidence you need for you to know that these guys don't know anything. They are not better than you. Being in front of the camera is nothing. It doesn't mean anything. Just like you, I'm talking now, someone listening to me somewhere now may be far smarter than me, but probably they don't like coming before the camera, or they don't even want to waste their time. Some people see what I'm doing as time wasting. Why? Because most people wouldn't see it. So they'll be like, why am I doing this? Why am I stretching myself out? Okay? Paul Nwankwo, you are lucky to have joined us this early. Please, guys, it's going to be like a video on Billy G, like we've never seen before. I don't know if the anger I'm having now is from what they did yesterday to the account that I couldn't broadcast, or the type of news I was getting from back home. Man, everything. Maybe it's the necessary anger. Maybe it's the anger that's needed for this to drive home this thing. Because, oh, guys, you are really gonna get pissed by the time we are done. And I wish we had enough African Americans listening to us right now. I wish we had enough of them listening to us right now. They will know that anything, any party giving money to Planned Parenthood is their worst enemy. And sadly enough, they tend to be voting for that same party. Believe me, I'm not telling you that the Republican Party is the party of angels. No. But to them, they still maintain some core principles that you only find around Africa, not anywhere else. The other white people that are doing it, the other Caucasians who are doing it are like the Russians, now the Hungarians, the Polish, the Serbians. Other than that, please, my brothers and sisters in America, please, if you have African American friends, try and give them this news. Let them see this. Ratty. Let them see this. And guys, please, let me share this video. In 1 minute, we are beginning to go into the video proper. But guys, I am just incensed The anger boiling in me right now is very, it's too much. And it's so sad seeing our people going to people like that, the baby freeze. Someone who's proven himself over and over again to be a willing tool in the hand of anybody who can pay. He's willing to lick any butt as long as money falls off the pocket of the owner. As if his trophy wife is not enough for him. At this point, with the way I didn't watch him, I've never watched him for a long time. It's past 2 years, and even before then, I've not watched him more than 3 times. To be honest with you, when I saw the way he was walking on eggshells, talking about things, and when he met the Justin Sule boy, man, that was the last straw that broke the camel's back. And I told myself, I'm not going to take this one. I'm telling you guys, we really should call him out. I'm not sure they are seeing through him well enough. We really need to sound the alarm. We really need to ring the bell. Let our people know what's going on. This guy is so stupid. He's such a dumb. He is either highly ignorant or very evil. If he's saying all those things because he's ignorant, then he shouldn't be anywhere near a microphone. He shouldn't be anywhere near a camera, let alone working in one of the biggest radio stations in Nigeria. All of them, they just want to belong. That's it. He just wants to answer a friend of Billy G and nothing more. It's really saddening. So, brothers and sisters, without wasting our time, let me share the screen. I will share the screen now, and we'll go straight to the video because it's going to be a long one. It's going to be a very long one. Let's begin. Strap up, guys.
Computer whiz kid, talented software developer, shrewd businessman, benevolent philanthropist, global health expert. There can be no doubt that Bill Gates has worn many hats on his remarkable journey from his early life as the privileged son of a Seattle area power couple to his current status as one of the richest and most influential people on the planet. But as we have seen in our exploration of Gates's rise as unelected global health czar and population control,
those of you who didn't follow us from the beginning, all these episodes he's showing are his expose on Bill Gates. This is the fool here. That's the devil himself here. And this is his father. This is his mother. And this particular program dug deep into his family history. Please, when we are done, go to his YouTube channel, James Colbert. Candace Owens, like I'm supposed to learn anything from Candace Owens, guys. You go there and watch each and every one of these episodes. Okay, I think he has compiled them into one video about 2 hours long or more than 2 hours long. I will share that one. You go, if you didn't watch it from the beginning, or those of you who watched one episode and didn't watch the others, I want you to go and watch them from the beginning. And if you can, go and send that thing to that idiot, Baby Freeze, and see if it wakes him up.
Journey from his early life as the privileged son of a Seattle area power couple to his current status as one of the richest and most influential people on the planet. But as we have
how Bill Gates monopolized global health, that's the first one.
Seen in our exploration of Gates's rise as
the second one, how Gates planned to vaccinate the world.
Elected global health czar and population control advocate.
Bill Gates and the population control grid. That's the third one. Then the last one is this.
The question of who Bill Gates really is no mere philosophical pursuit. Given that we are currently living through a crisis that...
What's this? This is the China virus. This is coronavirus. You have many coronaviruses. But remember when he gave this TED talk? What was at the back, at the background? Look at the screen behind him, the giant screen. You saw what's there? A coincidence? Hardly so. Hardly so. Hardly a coincidence. This evil, I will not turn my back on this man, even if he is 5 days dead. Even if a doctor pronounces this fool dead, I will not turn back. I will not turn my back to him. Like I've been telling you, watch the face. You see these glasses. Beware of people in glasses. Believe me, beware of those people. A lot of them you see that dressed that way is just to fool you. Appearance matters a lot. Where's my own glass? At least let me look innocent also. Packaging, are you seeing it? Don't let this fool you. Beware of those people and never look at them as weak people. Meet people who've had conversations with them and they will tell you exactly how these people reason and how they think.
That has been predicted by Bill Gates, which is triggering a response from the global health organizations that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has bankrupted.
Now, this is the moron from Ethiopia that they put in charge of the World Health Disorganization, or without health organization. I think this is the Colombian president, right? I don't know about that. This is a Colombian flag. And mind you, Colombia is now the launch pad for the CIA in their wars of aggression in North America and in North and Central America. Sorry, South and Central America, even the Caribbean. They are using these people. So it's not a mere coincidence that you say, look at this woman, president of Colombia, I think, but this is a Spaniard. They are all Europeans. Some people, you trace back their ancestry, they all meet in the same place when you go back 300 years from today. Trace it back 300 years from today, you will see that these guys, they are all related, they are all connected to and with each other. This fool, this moron that is in their pockets, this guy covered up like 3 different cholera outbreaks in Ethiopia. He's not a doctor. I am a better doctor than he is. If this guy is a doctor, I am Michelangelo. I am Michelangelo. If this guy is a doctor, I'm an astronaut. Yet they gave him the job because he is willing to do their bidding. Why do you give people unmerited jobs or positions? Because they will always do your bidding. They know that they are not supposed to be there. So they will do whatever you ask of them. It's that simple. Guys, please share this.
And driving us toward a vaccination and biometric ID solution, which Bill Gates has been working on for years. The answer to the question, who is Bill Gates, is quickly becoming one of the most important questions of our lives. That answer will not only tell us about the world that we are living in, but about the one that we are being thrust into, and how we can avoid it. Today we will attempt to answer that question as we examine the motives, the ideology, and the connections of this man who has been so instrumental in shaping the post-coronavirus world. Meet Bill Gates. You're tuned into the Corporate Report. So who is Bill Gates? Some argue that he's a genius who leveraged his natural computer savvy into a billion-dollar fortune.
You're called a genius, and I will. Well, no, I don't think that embarrassed you at all. They call you a genius.
That is supposed to be a journalist, right? No, listen, that woman that is blushing that way is supposed to
Is
be a
naturally
journalist.
computer savvy into a billion-dollar fortune.
You're called a genius.
This woman is supposed to be a journalist. Does this look like someone doing journalism? I don't want to use the word adversarial journalism because that's redundant. Journalism is supposed to be adversarial because everything objective has to be adversarial most of the time. Watch a journal. It did not start today. They did not start buying the airwaves today. From there, look at him at this age. Look at those cold eyes. Look straight into those eyes and tell me you don't see an evil. It didn't start today. Just listen. Those of you who didn't watch the video before now, I don't know why. So I'm sorry if I'm stopping it too much.
Yes, and I will. Well, no, I don't think that embarrassed you at all. They call you a genius. Part of your genius is that you are a computer whiz, and the other is that you did have the business acumen to turn it into a working company. Are you a business genius too?
Well, I wouldn't say genius.
Others insist that he is a visionary who has changed our lives with his foresight and bold imagination.
Bill had a vision, and I understand.
Just hear someone presenting. Watch how they praise him and how the whole house always applaud. Just pay attention to these morons. Listen.
And it went back even then that computing would be ubiquitous. It would be part of all of our lives. And indeed, as you all know, he executed on that vision. And the world today.
Oh, one of our brothers is saying that the Kenyan president fired a doctor. Wait, let me read it. He said, in Kenya, President Uhuru fired an honest chairman of the Kenya Medical Association because he refused to exaggerate the numbers. Oh, what the hell? Are we, please, in Africa, are we going to die off before these people? What's wrong with these people? Oh, please.
Has changed so dramatically, in large part due to the work that Bill has done throughout the years.
He has been hailed as a shrewd executive who built the Microsoft empire with his remarkable talent for business.
When the biographers and historians write the history of the 20th century, Bill Gates is going to go down as the best businessman of our century. And Microsoft is one of the greatest companies of the 20th century.
And he has been praised as a philanthropist who is selflessly devoting his wealth to improving the lives of people around the world.
Bill, even your harshest critic would have to admit that your philanthropy work is, planet-shaking, incredible.
Are you hearing the praises? Go check his name, the company he works for. They are getting Bill Gates money, partly or wholly. You will see how they bought, at least if you watch the other videos, you would have known by now that they've bought up the entire media houses, the entire research field, the entire scientific fields. They've bought it, and you are going to see a man that will prove to you that this guy is actually a company man, like we've always suspected him to be. He is just a mask that someone else is wearing. Don't worry, we are going to segue into things that will shock you.
And could be, if you make it a second act, so amazing that it would dwarf what you've actually done at Microsoft.
Everyone clapping there has been paid, bought and paid for by this man, courtesy of the people who own him. Don't worry, you are going to see more. The round of applause wholly paid for by him and the people who. Tell me the last person you met, someone who attended an event he was in. When was the last person you met someone who had seen him or gone into an event He attended. Go check it. Everybody there is bought and paid for, so you don't have anyone who will rock the boat. You don't have any protester. What they did to him in Belgium made him record into his shell. So now everywhere he's going, they have to plan it to the T. Everyone who will be there. And of course, you know, these people, those we network together. When one is clapping, everyone must join in. Watch him getting adulation, seeing himself like a semi-god. Dummy.
But, like anyone of his status, he has his detractors. In the 1990s, he was often portrayed as the greedy head of the evil Microsoft monopoly.
Bill Gates isn't content with his Windows system running just a few PCs. He wants it to run the world, spreading like a computer virus into our faxes, our phones, our TV sets, and yes,
these are the people who know him. Look at that computer, look at that monitor. It will show you when this was made. Look at the keyboard. This is either in the late 70s or early 80s. Let me rewind it a little so you will see, you will hear exactly what this guy is saying.
In the 1990s, he was often portrayed as the greedy
The
head
90s.
of the evil Microsoft monopoly.
90s.
Bill Gates isn't content with his Windows system running just a few PCs. He wants it to run the world.
He's not contented with his Windows running just a few PCs. He wants to run the world. What does that sound to you? What does that sound like to you? Monopoly. Wherever he goes, he monopolizes everything there. In medicine, and he's not even a doctor. How the hell is he in that field? Huh? Don't worry.
Spreading like a computer virus into our faxes, our phones, our TV sets, and yes, even our toasters.
But in the age of the coronavirus crisis, he is most often treated like some sort of epidemiologist or leading health researcher.
Back here with us once again to talk about this, as well as testing, treatments.
My people, you see this guy? You see this guy that's interviewing him? I don't even, this guy, I think is so irrelevant that I didn't think it was necessary to look into him. Now, let us start from this one that is interviewing him. Most of you know him as Anderson Cooper. But if you call him Anderson Vanderbilt Cooper, you are not making a mistake. Do you know his family? He is the one reading your news on CNN. Forget that name Cooper, and I will show you who he is. The Vanderbilt. He is a Vanderbilt interviewing a Gates, and sandwiched between them is a non-entity. I don't know. Maybe he may be worse than these people. You never know. You never can tell what you will find when you dig deep into his own lineage, family tree. But this Anderson Vanderbilt was in the CIA. He was in the CIA training school. Then they pushed him into this place. I don't want to say he was, because there is nothing like a former CIA operative or agent. No. Once in the CIA is always in the CIA. The only ex-CIA staff member is a dead one. The only ex-CIA operative is a dead one. Now you remember Operation Mockingbird. Those days they used to pay editors and some newscasters. Right now they own the entire news corporations. CNN is owned by who? Time Warner. Now go check who owns Time Warner. This Anderson, Vanderbilt. Now let's go into his own family tree before we come back to Bill Gates. I want to show you the family tree of that person that is interviewing Bill Gates. From then we will come back to Bill Gates. So I want you to know exactly the type of people you are, the type of people you are getting your news from. Let's go.
It's scary to think that in some ways the leaders of the largest corporations on the globe may hold more power than elected officials. But luckily enough, we have the powers of government regulation, ways of stopping uncontrollable enterprise from taking total control of society. I mean, for the most part. But as bad as it may seem today, it used to be worse. Oh boy, yes sirree, was it worse. There was a time when the power of the United States was undoubtedly in the hands of a select few businessmen. The robber barons, the captains of industry. Call them what you like, but they controlled everything. This was a time of...
See, there is nothing like this was a time of when they were... No, the same thing is still happening this day. In fact, it's worse than... Right now, it's worse than what it was in the early 90s. Or even in the 19th century. Or early 1900s, I meant to say. Even in the 19th century, in the 1800s, it wasn't this bad. The robber barons, they are back. The same people, go check it. For years, the same corporations. Ever since the fall of the Holy Roman Empire, the European industrial age, the same people who ran it are the same people still running it till this day. I kid you not. Don't worry, we are going deep down into that.
Unprecedented growth, and sure, businesses had massive profits and power in years past, but nothing like this. Why? How? When? Who? Don't worry, Jimmy, your boy Tyler's got you covered, because today we're looking at the Gilded Age. So in the latter half...
So when they tell you the Gilded Age, it was at a time on the surface, everything looks nice. Deep down, it's rotten. Doesn't that sound like the society today? Doesn't it sound like the society we are living in today? On the surface, look around you, you see fancy cars, fast cars everywhere, billionaires more than you've ever seen before. Money everywhere, homes, high-rise buildings and all that. Yet you go deep down inside it, the general population, on average, everyone is suffering. Now, does this sound like what happened 200 years ago, or does it sound like what is happening, what you are personally experiencing right now? Look at what's happening. Businesses, small businesses in the US, check the US stock market, small businesses down 40%. The large corporations, just within a space of 2-3 months, Jeff Bezos has amassed extra, I think it was a $6.something billion under this pandemic. Walmart sales up by how many percent? Amazon by how many percent? Target by how many percent? Just give me time, step by step, we will get there.
Half of the 1800s, it was becoming quickly apparent that new technology would soon change everything. The Second Industrial Revolution. Earlier in the century, we saw some steamboats and we had some factories, but this was something more. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll be focusing on a select few titans of enterprise in this video rather than covering them all, because, yeah, there's a lot. So to get started, we'll go back to a fine young fellow, Cornelius Vanderbilt. Born on...
Cornelius Vanderbilt. That is the patriarch of their family. Cornelius Vanderbilt. Please, people in South Africa, people in everywhere the British flag was planted in the world, everywhere the American corporations are ruling today, you go there, you will see companies that you will easily link to this place, just like the Carnegies, the Oppenheimers. People in South Africa, Pay attention to this name. If you're afraid of the Oppenheimers, be afraid of this one too, because they are the same people. Cornelius Vanderbilt, that is the family tree this guy came from. Let's continue.
Vanderbilt. Born on Staten Island, New York, US of A, baby, in 1794. As a young man, he had access to one fine specimen of a fairy. How he got it, who knows? Some say he borrowed.
How he got it, who knows? Some say he borrowed. No, they all work for people. They all work for people that own the United States. Where are you going to find them? The people who control the US currency, the Federal Reserve. How did he get it? We don't know. Now, you see all this 18 minutes history. Please don't ever take them seriously. If you don't know your history before now, please don't use them as a research material. No. I'm using it because a lot of us don't know the background to this thing, to these people. And the people who are making, if you go and check this video, it has over 1 million views. And it was posted in 2018. If this video was going to educate you, give you the real education, they would have scrubbed it off the internet a long time ago. They've scrubbed many off. Go check how many channels they've deleted in the last 2 years. Millions. Millions. Now, those people are now in obscure sites, just like in the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries, when they were controlling the printing press. The good writers who write things they don't want the people to know are consigned into the dustbin of history. You'll be banished to the publication Siberia. The publishers will cut you off. Your book will never be published. Just like today, your page will be deleted, your YouTube channel will be deleted, your Facebook account gone, your Twitter account gone. Why? They all control it. You know how they monopolized printing press those days? That's the way they've monopolized the internet today. The system has not changed. It's still the same thing. Why? Because the same people. How did he get his money? Nobody knows. Really? Really? Those years? When almost everyone knew what the neighbor was doing. The people who ran slavery brought them in. They control the currency. They issue the currency. Do you remember the Roman coinage? Now, this paper replaced the coinage system. And the people who own those things will take anyone, pick anyone, place you there, fund you, and you will be the face of the company at the end of the day. Look at JP Morgan. Where do we hear many stories here about JP Morgan? His name appeared here too. And that will tell you something else about him. Let's continue. Wait, let me block that idiot on the studio. Let me block him here. Don't fail to indicate when it's time to show the morons the way out, because we don't have time for all these fools.
Money. Some say his dad had it. I really don't care. What matters is he made a living with this ferry. He took people from Staten Island all the way to Manhattan. People called him the Commodore because he was on a boat and whatnot. But that one boat soon turned into a fleet, and that fleet soon turned into a really rich.
That boat turned into a fleet, and that fleet turned. How? How? Do you notice that all these people that are using, all of a sudden you just see them controlling everything? Look at Dangote in Nigeria. Monopoly. And who gave them that money to monopolize those things? Don't worry, we are coming.
Really big fleet. By this point, he's really wealthy. He lent his ships to the military for the Civil War and all around was just a good old nautical fellow. But he knew the future wasn't boats. He saw something else. The railroads. They weren't entirely new, but they were getting pretty popular. And by the time the Transcontinental Railroad was built, it was apparent that this was the next big industry. The importance of rail transportation is lost on many people these days. Back then, it was the only way to get across large distances in a modest time frame. Just as important, it allowed entrepreneurs to sell their products nationwide, something that would otherwise be basically impossible. As the products reach larger markets, profits increase, both for the producer and the guy who delivers it. So yeah, it's important. He starts selling his boats, all his boats, puts the money into the rail industry, and soon the Commodore begins to witness the benefits of unyielding economic power. After all, the more profits you have gives you the more power to regulate your own prices, fairly or otherwise. Competition and customers are fed up with this pricing, being pretty mean to them. Old Vanderbilt doesn't take kindly to this and literally stops all rail transport into and out of New York City. Just stops it. The opposition loses value as stocks drop, and old Vanderbilt is right there to buy them up.
Are you seeing it? Are you seeing how they are doing it? You stop it, you manipulate the market because you control this one. Now you manipulate the market, the whole stock will fall. Then you come back, use your own money to buy it out. Look at what the US government is doing under this pandemic. 4.2 trillion US dollars in bailouts. And now they are still doing a stimulus package for small businesses. Who got those $4.2 trillion? Guess what? The people who got those $4.2 trillion are still the same one who are going to buy out all the businesses that have foreclosed. Even the homes. Does it sound like what's going to happen in Nigeria at the end of this? Because even the big ones are trading. Please don't, I'm not just focusing on Nigeria. If you are a Kenyan, look at it and see if it's happening in Kenya. And people from Kenya, please jot down these names. All the Anglophone African countries, please jot down these names. They are in your countries too. Their corporations are. They are the ones that own your presidents, okay? That's why we are pointing them out. That's why those guys are never afraid of strolling into your country whenever they want. And no one will say a thing. They own the big people in your countries. They all work for them. When you hear them talk about American interests, no, they are talking about the interests of these men and the people they represent. That's what they mean by American interest. Are you getting me?
Creating the crisis that ruins the competition just to buy the competition. Just wonderful. And all the while, more railways are built. Just tons of railways all over the place. Possibly too many. Actually, yes, definitely too many. Not much potential remains in the rail building industry since over the past few decades, enough seem to have been constructed. So Vanderbilt wants a new revenue source. If he can't build more railways, what if he can find new cool things to put on those railways? Intriguing. What he finds is kerosene. Kerosene lets people just light lamps every night and gain the ability to see when it was previously dark. It was booming, and that popularity would soon take it from commodity to necessity, and Vanderbilt wanted in. So he gets a hold of an up-and-coming businessman, John D. Rockefeller. Yeah, we talked about him a long time ago on this channel, but we're going to do... And that popularity would soon take it from commodity to necessity, and Vanderbilt wanted in. So he gets a hold of an up-and-coming businessman, John D.
Please remember this name. John D. Rockefeller. With who? Vanderbilt. Now, you remember the people... You remember the people we are talking about today? That was then. Then today, this is a direct descendant of Cornelius Vanderbilt. Here. And this is someone whose father is an ass licker for the Rockefeller Foundation, the entire Rockefeller family. My people, are you noticing a trend? Are you noticing a trend? Don't worry, we'll still link this one with the Rockefellers like we've linked them before. Or even further than that, even as I've suspected. Are you getting it? Don't worry, let's get back to the video.
Rockefeller. Yeah, we talked about him a long time ago on this channel, but we're going to do it again for just a bit. Context and whatnot. Johnny agrees to stock Vanderbilt's rail cars with lots of oil. And Rockefeller follows through and starts building an empire of his own. He buys other companies, and his market share rises to 90%. Now he has the power. He becomes too big for just Vanderbilt. He goes to other railroad magnates as well, including Thomas Scott. He gets a bit of an ego and starts making what seems like to them unreasonable demands. The railroad industry wasn't doing too hot at this point. You know how I said there was too many railroads? Well, they just kept building them. Just so many. The whole industry was weak with overexposure, and the companies weren't in their prime anymore. They wanted some respect back. So Scott and Vanderbilt just refuse. They thought, he can't ship it without us. Why does this man think he deserves these rates? If we don't ship it, he can't make money. He needs us. But they were wrong. Rockefeller just decided he would find a way to transport it himself.
A very shrewd human being. Rockefeller, a very, very shrewd human being. One of the most evil people you can ever find in the world. A hybrid of the people that founded the Dutch West Indian Company and the Dutch East Indian Company with the ruling monarchs of Europe. John D. Rockefeller, a very shrewd human being, evil man who've been profiting from wars. These guys, their wealth are built on the backs of many souls. I mean, like millions of souls. They'd rather cause a global disaster like wars and what have you, the worst possible crimes you can think of. Look deep into it, their names are there. All under the umbrella of the ROT. Guys, you know who I mean. Please, if you know it, type it there. Let people know what's going on. There's an ad coming up. I will have to stop it so YouTube don't give me a strike.
Not with trains, but pipeline.
This is the US Navy. The people that gave us Holy Ghost fire. See the fire they are building. Watch.
The pipeline couldn't reach a refinery, just shut it down. Better than giving the old train guys their day in the sun. Now, around this time, things were going pretty bad for the railroads. But you know who else wasn't having the best time? The people working on the railroads, and the refineries, and the steel mills, and, well, everything for that matter. It was bad. It was common to have 12-hour work days, horrible pay, life-threatening conditions, and possibly only one day off a week. All the while, the leaders of such companies were experiencing wealth unprecedented in American history. But it wasn't just America. No, it was everywhere. But right now, let's not look at everywhere, let's look at Canada. Canada had made unions illegal. Unions just fought for better rights and pay and stuff, and workers would strike if demands weren't met. Well, in 1872, Canada changes its mind and everybody's happy. Unions are legal. People parade on the streets, and every year they celebrate this with a labor parade. But I know what you're saying. Who cares? Let me talk, Jimmy. It's all going to connect somehow. But let's get back to America for now. Well, all this fun comes to an end pretty quickly with the Panic of 1873.
Which they caused. The Panic of 1873. Which they caused. Just like the current panic. Because people don't study history. That was why they were easily fooled into locking down. Okay, let me say that is why, because it's still ongoing in many places. They create these things, and in the cover of darkness, they will rob everyone blind. They'll rob countries. These ones don't rob shops or banks. No, they rob countries. Go and study that panic.
The worst economic debacle America has seen so far. A bunch of stuff caused it, and it's stuff that really doesn't matter, so don't worry.
A bunch of stuff caused it is some stuff that doesn't really matter, so don't worry. You see why you shouldn't pay attention to these people? How about you spare 30 seconds and tell us exactly what caused that panic? Why? Because it will open your mind and you will start checking whether it's the same thing happening today. I've been telling you people, the stock market is one giant casino. It's one giant casino. It's worse than casino gambling, because that way they will tell you that you are risking your money. You know the risk you're involved in. But this one, they will come and tell you, hey, you get this, you get that. Now ask them, what if I want to buy out? Come on, that's when you know the true nature of the stock market.
You just got to know that workers got to work more and make less now, and railroads are just going bankrupt left and right. And old Vanderbilt just buys them up. You scoundrel, you. As you can tell, it's not all fun and or games. For some, it's actually none of these things. Thomas Scott has to shut down some of the railroads, lay some people off, cut wages, and people strike. Then militias are brought out to ease the tensions, and it's just a bad time all around. Worse yet, Thomas Scott dies soon after. Now, you may be asking, why are you talking about this Thomas Scott guy? Well, it's because he's a mentor to a very special somebody. A Scottish American named Andrew Carnegie.
Andrew Carnegie. People in Guinea will never forget the companies that this guy got involved in. Everywhere you see them mining resources for steel, in Africa, in South America, they will never forget this name, Andrew Carnegie. You hear of US Steel. No, US Steel does not belong to the US government. It's a private corporation, and whatever he wants in your country will be called American national interest, of which is not. The corporations that are destroying your lands, my land, they didn't start today. They started with these people. Remember where we are driving at? The person interviewing Bill Gates. Don't forget. I want you to see how you stop saying the 1%. No, the 1% of the people in the world don't rule the world. If they did, the money will spread. It's less than 1/100th of 1%. These guys. Oh.
During this whole mentor thing, he became fascinated with this new building material, steel. So strong, it was unlike anything before it. We could build further, taller, and everything in between. He moves away from his railroad roots and starts making steel mills. Lots of them. As he takes control of the fledgling industry, new possibilities open up. People were moving into cities at an increasing rate. They needed jobs, they needed homes, and what they found wasn't quite doing it for them. So Carnegie's steel started being used in buildings, tall buildings. The first really tall buildings that we would call skyscrapers. But at the same time, those steel workers were going through the ringer. It wasn't uncommon for workers to just die. Safety wasn't the biggest concern. I mean, it's a 19th century steel mill. I think it speaks for itself. So as you can imagine, demand for unions was steadily increasing amongst workers. Remember those Canadians in their parade? They invite some American union leader over and be a part of the grand old time. He likes it. He comes back and he says, hey, we should have a holiday. A holiday about labor. Yeah, that's Labor Day. It catches on. Over time, people across the country start doing it, and eventually some states actually recognize the holiday. That's some states at least. Back to Carnegie, though. He's a businessman, yes, but not ruthless. He doesn't like crushing people beneath his foot for profit, so he hires somebody else to do it. Henry Frick. To increase these profits, he makes workers' lives pretty bad, buys out other companies, and overall just monopolizes the steel market. To the workers' perspective, he's a really bad dude, but he gets the job done. Soon he's chairman of Carnegie Steel, and all seems pretty A-okay. Well, except for the workers, it was just getting worse. But who cares? Frick is doing frickin' amazing, and he wants to show off a bit. He builds a pompous members club called South Fork Hunting and Fishing Club for all his rich friends. With this, he gains the responsibility of managing a big dam that held in a nearby lake. Now, that dam wasn't great, and it also was the only thing protected.
Now, pay attention. these concessions you're seeing are the modern day slavery. The privatizations that went on in Africa between the year 2000 and 2015 is exactly what you're seeing here. Now, instead of building this dam, you will see what these people did and how many lives that were lost. All for them to get, oh man.
Protecting a local town from certain devastation. They asked Frick to fix it up, and he was just like, nah. Being the amazing culmination of human evolution that he was, Frick decided to weaken the dam to make it easier to cross.
He weakened the dam to make it easier to crumble. Just watch, listen, watch what's happening here.
Guess what? It broke and over 2,000 people died. He and the other club members weren't charged with any crimes, but laws would be changed to convict future peoples of this incredibly stupid...
No, they were not convicted, but laws would be made to punish future people. Are you getting it? How many people have been convicted over the Jeffrey Epstein case? How many people? How about the DC madam? How about the World Trade Center on 9/11? Has anyone asked the BBC journalist why she talked about the third tower that fell that day, 21 minutes before it actually came down, in the same fashion as the ones they told you that the airplanes brought down? Has anyone asked questions how an aeroplane can bring down a steel building, or how that hole at the Pentagon was made by an aeroplane? Look at the hole and check the size of an aeroplane. Even if the aeroplane just fell off the sky and decided to nosedive into that building, that nose cannot fit there. Check the height, measure it. We are not fools. It did not start today. Just like we are going to do this real story about the Titanic, you will know that that Titanic is one giant industrial insurance scam. Are you seeing it? You weakened it, killed many people, and guess what? You don't count. You don't count, and with Bill Gates in the expose, you will understand how they don't think you count.
Negligence. Carnegie was also a member of the club, and he probably felt pretty bad because right after he wrote a pretty compassionate work, The Gospel of Wealth.
Yes.
In this, he basically says rich people should give back to the communities and enrich the lives of the public instead of hoarding it in their Scrooge McDuck mansions. This was appalling to other captains of industry. See, they relied on a different philosophy, social Darwinism. Now, this concept is basically survival of the fittest, but in an economic sense.
But guys, let's stop this. I will upload this video later. Now, you've seen that the people we've been talking about, this evil they've been committing, it did not start today, but this one will be reading your news with a reassuring smile. Nice $5,000 suit with a good pair of glasses. Watch them. Beware of these people. Don't let appearance fool you. So that one is just a bonus. It's a bonus. Now we are going back to our real video, our main video. You've seen it, a Vanderbilt interviewing someone who is connected to the Rockefellers. Now it's the Vanderbilt and the Rockefeller, just like over 200 years ago. Over 240 years ago. Same people, same line. Sorry, 100 and something years ago. Are you getting it? Let's continue.
And more, Bill Gates, co-chair of the Bill and Melinda.
My brother, someone sent you my WhatsApp number already. Please, somebody reply our brother Odinaka, Iboneku Odinaka, reply him with my number. Please. Reply him with my number.
Melinda Gates Foundation. Bill, thanks so much for being back with us. It's been a little over a month since you were here, and at that time, you said the U.S. had not hit its peak. So at this point, do you think we have peaked? And Where do you think we are right now in kind of the arc of the pandemic?
But in truth, none of these perspectives are accurate. Microsoft's big break famously came from a deal to provide software for IBM as they moved into the personal computer market. But the deal was not the result of Gates's technical genius or amazing business acumen. As has been quietly admitted by IBM executives in the years since, Microsoft was given their shot at the chance to work with Big Blue as a result of Gates's mother's relationship with IBM CEO John.
Are you hearing it? The mother's relationship with the IBM CEO. You see this IBM? They worked with the Nazis. At the same time they were working with the American government, they worked with the Nazis. This IBM you're seeing, this IBM, it did not start today. When we tell you that the same people sponsored both sides of the war, my people in America, please meet white Europeans, especially Germans, and hear the story of those two wars from the side of the people who were defeated. We only heard about one side of the story. You see this IBM? You remember that Malaysian flight that disappeared? A plane disappeared in the 21st century and they couldn't see it. The black box did not ping until days after it died. They told you they saw some wreckages here, they saw there, then it was down in Australia, then it was behind Malaysia, then it was close to China, until no one is saying anything about it. Two IBM executive top engineer, top scientists were in that plane. Two people. You remember this this thing they are using in Syria? The military, the Western military, this thing are using in Syria. IFF, Identify Friend or Foe, is owned by IBM. This IBM, guess what? Those people that died in that plane, that disappeared with that plane, those two people and someone that bears the name Rothschild are the people who own whose names are on the patents of that IFF. Now these two people died. That left how many people? One person with that, the same IBM. We are going to start doing programs on who actually own all these defense companies. All these defense companies that arm the US military, their Navy, all these things, Boeing, what have you. Remind me of their names again, please. Lockheed Martin, General Electric. What Dynamics? Are you the usual suspect at every turn?
Opal.
Do you remember your partnership of IBM and Bill Gates? How did it break up?
I do remember very well, actually. Bill Gates, at the time, at the beginning of our relationship with him, was living on pizza and Pepsi-Cola in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And his mother happened to be on the United Way board with our chairman and asked our chairman to help him. And, you know, when the chairman comes in and tells you to go help this kid, 900 people get on the plane Monday morning and they all go down.
Are you seeing it? The chairman of IBM came and told them to go help this kid. 900 people went that Monday. Now you think this Bill Gates is a genius? Sit me with that fool in the room. I will ask him questions to find out that this guy may not even know past an average technician. 900 people, if 900 people were working with me when I was at that age, maybe 15 years ago, by now I will rule the whole Africa. You heard it from an this CEO of IBM. Let's rewind it. Hear him again.
There's relationship with IBM CEO John Opal.
Do you remember your partnership?
Thank you, Patrick, as aerodynamics. Thank you.
Partnership of IBM and Bill Gates. How did it break up?
I do remember very well, actually. Bill Gates, at the time, at the beginning of our relationship with him, was living on pizza and Pepsi Cola in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And his mother happened to be on the United Way board with our chairman and asked our chairman to help him. And, you know, when the chairman comes in and tells you to go help this kid, 900 people get on the plane Monday morning and they all go down to try to help Bill Gates. So I don't see Bill Gates as this great creative person. I see him as an opportunist.
Are you saying I don't see Bill Gates as this great creative person? I see him as an opportunist. Wait until you hear his father's job and how they were raised. My brother Anthony Ezanika is not Preston Bush, it's Prescott Bush, the patriarch of the Bush family.
And in fact, in those days, there was a lot of sharing of software code. People gave it away. In Silicon Valley, they would share everything. He came in and he tried to control everything and put a price on it.
Computer historians have long known how the basis for what became MS-DOS was not Bill Gates's brilliant imagination, but QDOS, a quick...
Are you seeing it? MS-DOS that made him rich was not from him. Those days, people are, you see how you have open source, where people share ideas and give their codes. Everyone will be working together to achieve something free. He was the one that changed it. He came in and changed it as the only person who knows what money is. Doesn't that sound like what they did to Nikola Tesla? What Thomas Edison did to Nikola Tesla? As Thomas Edison was not an inventor, he never invented shit. That's how this Bill Gates was never an inventor. Are you seeing it? And Thomas Edison was directly under who? JP Morgan. Then Thomas Edison made Nikola Tesla sign his future. It was just a high-tech slavery. And is it surprising that he somehow died after he became free and was in the process of completing the Tesla Tower that would have given you and I free electricity? The way they crush him and the free electricity project is the way Bill Gates. This guy, don't worry, you will still see his connection. Let me rewind it a little bit so you get it again.
An opportunist. And in fact, in those days, there was a lot of sharing of software code. People gave it away. In Silicon Valley, they would share everything. He came in and he tried to control everything and put a price on it.
Computer historians have long known how the basis for what became MS-DOS was not Bill Gates's brilliant imagination, but QDOS, a quick and dirty operating system that had been thrown together by Tim Patterson, a worker at Seattle Computer Products, as a placeholder until he could sell the proper operating system to his customers. And as even Gates himself admitted, the breakthrough graphical user interface that became the basis for Windows was ripped off from the researchers at the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center.
You saw how he stole it from the Palo Alto Research Center. He stole it, and why couldn't the man sue him? You will see why. You will see why he keep winning all these cases. You will get to understand it. We are coming.
As Bill would say after Apple unsuccessfully sued Microsoft for copyright infringement. Or
what? As Bill would say after Apple unsuccessfully sued Microsoft. You can't successfully sue him. Successfully sued Microsoft for copyright infringement over Windows GUI. This is Steve Jobs. Both of them are crooks. Apple, Microsoft, crooks. Criminals. You will hear it.
Over Windows GUI. Hey, Steve, just because you broke in.
Watch what he replied to Steve Jobs. Hey, Steve, just because you broke into Xerox's house before I did and took the TV doesn't mean I can't go in later and take the stereo. That is Paul Allen, Idea Man. Go read the book. Idea Man. Are you seeing it? Are you reading it? That's your benevolent Bill Gates. that's giving you things for free. Don't worry.
Into Xerox's house before I did and took the TV doesn't mean I can't go in later and take the stereo.
You stole, I stole too.
And, as Gates also admits, it is not a spirit of selfless generosity that motivates his interest in vaccines and other lucrative health interventions.
I'd like to talk to you about your approach to vaccinations. You wrote something recently, and like you always do, you kind of looked at the problem from a scientific and business perspective on things. You've invested $10 billion in vaccinations over the last 2 decades, and you figured out the return on investment for that. And it kind of stunned me. Can you walk us through the math?
You know, we see a phenomenal track record. It's been 100 billion overall that the world's put in. Our foundation is a bit more than 10 billion. But we feel there's been over a 20-to-1 return. So if you just look at the...
Are you seeing it? So the vaccine is not for free. He said it's almost 100 billion. The world put in a little bit over 100 billion. Then his company put over 10 billion. Now he's telling you it's a good money on it, a good return on investment, about 20-to-1. How then is he a philanthropist? Organizing a monopoly on the vaccines and coming to play Mr. Nice Guy before you. That's where the mask slipped, in Davos, Switzerland. And that was about 3-4 years ago. I want to rewind it, pay attention to what he said. This is when the mask slips. We are coming. Let's start from here so you get that one again.
Doesn't mean I can't go in later and take the stereo.
And, as Gates also admits, it is not a spirit of selfless generosity that motivates his interest in vaccines and other lucrative health interventions.
I'd like to talk to you about your approach to vaccinations. You wrote something recently, and like you always do, you kind of looked at the problem from a scientific and business perspective on things. You've invested $10 billion in vaccinations over the last 2 decades, and you figured out the return on investment for that. And it kind of stunned me. Can you walk us through the math?
You know, we see a phenomenal track record. It's been 100 billion overall that the world's put in. Our foundation is a bit more than 10 billion. But we feel there's been over a 20-to-1 return. So if you just look at the economic benefits, that's a pretty strong number compared to anything else.
As we have seen, Gates's philanthropic investment scheme has paid off well, with his $50 billion net worth having ballooned to over $100 billion after his decade of altruism in the vaccine market. As critics of his foundation have repeatedly pointed out, the 9 million people who die every year of hunger would be best served by securing food supplies.
9 million people die every year by hunger. He is busy giving you vaccine instead of giving food. And my fellow African brothers and sisters, this guy, if he is this benevolent, altruistic, how about he help his own countrymen and women who are suffering? Haven't you seen American ghettos? Have you seen some cities in Baltimore, in Louisiana, Chicago? Huh? Have you seen the homeless problem in California, in LA, San Francisco? He hasn't helped them. And somehow he's coming to Africa to do what? To help you. And all these billions they've been spending, tell me a single person you know who benefited a single thing from this guy. We are Africans. Where are these funds going to? They are using it to buy out your politicians, buy their silence, and make them to the path of the World Health Organization, the Without Health Organization. Then they will sell you the vaccine. Your government still pay for those vaccines in case you don't know, somehow. Or they will stick the other donor countries with the bill, and you must pay it. Guess what? They are running a blackmail scheme too. Okay?
running water, and other basic necessities, not costly medical interventions for rare diseases. But there is no return on investment to be made from that kind of charity. No, this is not about charity. It is about control. The population control grid that Gates has been quietly...
Gavi, my people, I repeat it, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala is on the board of Gavi. I heard Ostachidoka talking about Igbo presidency. If that Baladia dream ever happens, believe me, they will find someone like in the form of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala or somebody in Transcorp or under Dangote Group. Guess what? Dangote is on that Gavi too. Aliko Dangote. Please, my people, wherever you are from in Africa, go check your politicians, your policy drivers who are on the board of Gavi or SEPI. They are all controlled by the same people, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Just like the Rockefeller Foundation, we are going to that place. You will see oh, please, God, man.
Funding into existence for the past decade, a biometric identification system tied to a digital payments infrastructure that will be used to track, catalog, and control every movement, every transaction, and every interaction of every citizen is just now coming into view. But the real question is, why is he doing this? What drives a man like Bill Gates, a man rich beyond the wildest dreams of avarice, to spend his time and invest his fortune in schemes to control the population? To find the answer to that question, we have to examine Gates's family background. Bill Gates, it should not be surprising to learn, was born into money. His great-grandfather, J.W. Maxwell, was the president of...
His great-grandfather, J.W. Maxwell. Does it sound J to you? Wait. Does it sound this to you? I don't know if you are seeing it. Does it sound this to you? Oh, you can't see it. J-E-W people. Please, this is not an attack on every J person. No. It's their ruling class. They've been doing it from time immemorial and they are still doing it till this day. And when you see them, they all marry into the they get titles of nobility. Because they are the bankers that fund the monarchs, so they will have to work hand in hand with each other in order for the whole system not to crumble. No, we buy into it. The J gang, yes. You saw who his grandfather is, or was. Now let's go back. Let's go again.
Should not be surprising to learn, was born into money. His great-grandfather, J.W. Maxwell, was the president of National City Bank in Seattle. His
great-grandfather was the president of National City Bank. Now go check Citibank today. Citibank. The same people you see were on Council on Foreign Relations. My people, we've done that video. We've showed you this thing on Council on Foreign Relations at every given time. Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, all these countries you see in the world that are under the control of the Western corporations, go check them. Your president, when you mention Council on Foreign Relations, when Richard Haas calls, Buhari will drop everything and answer the call. Uhuru Kenyatta will drop everything and answer the call. Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa will drop everything and answer the call. Because he is the mouthpiece of the Lords of Africa. Go there, check it. They are all in it today. BlackRock, Vanguard, Bank of America, Citi, way back from his great grandfather. Let's continue.
Grandfather, Willard, was also a banker, and his grandmother, Adele, a prominent Seattle civic.
Watch, Adele Maxwell, birth date, December 1st, 1903, birthplace, McClough, King County, Washington, United States, death, 1987, she was 80, Seattle, Washington. Watch, immediate family, daughter of William James Thompson and Ada Thompson, wife of James William Maxwell Jr., mother of Mary Gates. Okay? Okay? Tomorrow, when quantum computer becomes known to most people, unlike the way it is now, do you know the people sitting at the top of the table there is the banks, this time around Goldman Sachs. Yes, Goldman Sachs. The moment the paper money goes and money becomes something that is not tangible, my people, it's all over. Forget it, it's all over. It's all over. With this, you see what they are doing to you on Facebook, ordinary social media accounts. Now imagine what they would do to you. Like I keep telling you, you will be flying. Maybe you fly from Turkey, you are going to the UK, you stay in the airport maybe for 1 week, and they will tell people, a lot of people at the airport, they will make sure you are stranded, then you miss your flight. That way you will be left penniless. Because they will just need to turn off your card. That's if it's not your chip. They will turn off the chip. Now tell me, when they chip you, what's the difference between you and the machine? Don't worry, we are coming.
Leader. Bill Gates' mother, Mary Maxwell Gates, was a scion of the Maxwell banking family and, by all accounts, as hard-driving as her forebears. She served as a director of several companies, including First Interstate Bancorp and KIRO-TV of Seattle. She served as a regent at the University of Washington, and she was appointed to the board of the United Way of America, where, as we have seen, she persuaded IBM CEO John Opel to help her son in his fledgling software development career. Bill's father, William H. Gates Sr., was a prominent Seattle area lawyer. He co-founded a powerful law and lobbying firm, helped Howard Schultz in his bid to buy Starbucks, served...
You see their hands in Starbucks too? Are you getting it? You see why I will never give my dime to Starbucks. I will never give my dime to Starbucks. I'm no longer a coffee person. If I need a coffee, I will just go into the market, buy my authentic, original Turkish coffee. Some of them brought in from Africa, Ethiopia, even Nigeria. You go there, I would stop spending your money. Stop giving these people, stop feeding these people. They are sucking your blood. If you can, never shop in Amazon, on Amazon, Target, what do you call it? Walmart, except you have no other option. In Nigeria, you see your shop left or shop wrong. You call it shop right. Dangote products. Never buy from these people. Watch their stock prices tank. That's the only way you destroy that monopoly. If you are expecting your government to break it, forget it. It will not happen.
Software development career. Bill's father, William H. Gates Sr., was a prominent Seattle area lawyer. He co-founded a powerful law and lobbying firm, helped Howard Schultz in his bid to buy Starbucks, served on the boards of numerous companies and organizations, and, along the way, had a profound influence on his son's life and career.
My dad was large presence, both physically and in terms of his wisdom. he worked very hard. So he'd leave in the mornings, often before we had breakfast, and get home in time for dinner. I always looked up to my dad in terms of how hard he worked. At the dinner table, my dad would go through various lawsuits and expect us to follow along. He had high expectations.
The young Bill Gates, technically William H. Gates III, although his card-playing family dubbed him Trey, learned much from his parents. From his mother's banking family, he inherited a nose for the dollar, as one childhood friend's father called it. From his hard-driving, legal-minded father, he learned the value of legalizing business arrangements. As a child, he even had a legal contract drawn up to grant him the use of his older sister's baseball mitt. These traits would not earn him many friends, but they served him well as he began to bring order to the anarchic software development community of the 1970s. At that time, software for the brand new personal computer market was the realm of computer hobbyists, people whose excitement about the microcomputer revolution and love of engineering and problem solving led them to develop and share code freely with each other. But this was no good for the young.
They used to share codes freely with each other. That means computer is even supposed to be cheaper than it is now. You would have been freer than you are now. You would have had more freedom. I don't know if you caught that. Even the word they tell you that he even made her sister to do what? That is the mind of your philanthropist. Call that baby freeze. Tell that baby freeze and stop going to listen to that fool. The idiot, I heard he was making jest of the people, talking about this guy and this VV. We've been okay, we've been living, we've been surviving before these people came. Even with all the diseases they brought in our land, we've been surviving. Now they want to give us their vaccines. Please take your vaccines and go. We have our own vaccines. We have ours. Would you buy a used car from this man? That you will allow him to pump in his vaccines, his injections into your body and the bodies of your children? Tell me, would you buy anything from this fool? He's giving you free, but look at what he did to the computer world, to the software world. Engineers were sharing codes freely. Then, as someone who knows what money is, he came in to show you it's not. Those 900 people they sent were the people. He's been guided in everything. His public persona was crafted and created by people. Those 900 people were not just all engineers. 900 people to go help one person, and you don't think they are creating something mightier than one person? Kai, let's rewind it a little bit.
Legalizing business arrangements. As a child, he even had a legal contract drawn up to grant him the use of his older sister's baseball mitt. These traits would not earn him many friends, but they served him well as he began to bring order to the anarchic software development community of the 1970s. At that time, software for the brand new personal computer market was the realm of computer hobbyists, people whose excitement about the microcomputer revolution and love of engineering and problem solving led them to develop and share code freely with each other.
Freely.
But this was no good for the young Bill Gates, who, even before Microsoft was off the ground, was already dreaming of commoditizing this hobby and turning it into the basis of a business empire. In 1976, with the ink still wet on Microsoft's first contract with Micro Instrumentation and Telemetry Systems of Albuquerque, New Mexico, the then 21-year-old Gates wrote an open letter to hobbyists, excoriating the early computer enthusiasts who represented his main market for sharing Microsoft code for Altair Basic. As the majority of hobbyists must be
aware, most of you steal your software. Hardware must be paid for, but software is something to share. Who cares if the people who worked on it get paid? Okay.
Be aware, most of you steal your software. Hardware must be paid for, but software is something to share. Who cares if the people who worked on it get paid? Is this fair? The royalty paid to us, the manual, the tape, and the overhead make it a break-even operation. One thing you do is prevent good software from being written. Who can afford to do professional work for nothing? What hobbyist can put 3 man-years into programming, finding all bugs, documenting his product, and distribute for free? The fact is, no one besides us has invested a lot of money in hobby software. We have written 6800 BASIC and are writing 8080 APL and 6800 APL, but there is very little incentive to make this software available to hobbyists. Most directly, the thing you do is theft. The letter was awkward and tone-deaf, as many people have described the young Bill Gates in his social interactions. It heaped vitriol on the very people who would be the customers of any future business, and tried to change an established culture of sharing software code merely by decree. Even Apple computers, which would go on to be one of the prime purveyors of walled garden systems that restrict users' ability to control their own computers, scored an easy marketing victory by responding to Gates's angry letter with a reminder that, yes, folks, Apple Basic is free. Culture of sharing software.
My people, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but I want you to see how much they sold Apple II. Then you remember how the code on that video we watched, the patent number of that this thing Bill Gates fight for. The contact tracing BS. He fight for that patent. I want you to listen and watch. Maybe some of you watched this video did not catch it. We will want to, maybe we'll check what those codes mean, because it's not just a coincidence. Don't worry, we'll see how much it's worth. Watch.
Code merely by decree. Even Apple computers, which would go on to be one of the prime purveyors of walled garden systems that restrict users' ability to control their own computers, scored an easy mark.
Check. Apple One includes 4 kilobytes RAM. How much? $666.66. Are you seeing it? Did you catch that? I just saw this one now. Hello there. Please, I'm on live. I'm live on Facebook. I will call you back, please. Are you seeing it? Please, this 666 has nothing to do with the mark of the beast you learned about in your church. No. But there is something here. It takes time. This one may even take you more than 3 years to decode. At the end of the day, you may be pursuing shadows, or you may end up decoding it maybe in 2-3 minutes. Are you seeing it? Now go check that patent, the patent number of that nonsense contact tracing. Watch it.
Marketing victory by responding to Gates's angry letter with a reminder that, yes, folks, Apple Basic is free. But the gauntlet was thrown down, and Gates would have his way. Although freeware and other forms of open source software development still exist, the establishment of software code as legally protected intellectual property has led to the rise of billionaires like Gates. A nose for the dollar and a knowledge of how to use the legal system to get what you want were not the only things to emerge from Bill Gates' childhood, however. His parents also encouraged discussion about the family's charity work and the causes they held close to their heart. As Gates revealed to Bill Moyers in 2003, those causes included the population issue, which sparked a lifelong interest in reproductive health.
The issue that really grabbed me as urgent were issues related to population, reproductive health. But did you come to
reproductive health? You know how they use words to confuse people. What is reproductive about killing babies? Abortion, that is reproductive health. You will learn. It didn't start from him. It's from his father and his mother. His father was the president of Planned Parenthood, the biggest abortion industry, the biggest baby killing factory in the world. Reproductive health. Just wait till we hear it. You will see when they changed the name and how it came about. Watch.
They held close to their heart. As Gates revealed to Bill Moyers in 2003, those causes included the population issue, which sparked a lifelong interest in reproductive health.
An issue that really grabbed me as urgent were issues related to population, reproductive health.
But did you come to reproductive issues as an intellectual?
When I was growing up, my parents were always involved in various volunteer things. My dad was head of Planned Parenthood, and it was very controversial to be involved with that.
Gates tips his hand when he equates issues related to population with reproductive health. The topic is particularly controversial because population control and reproductive health have been used for half a century as a euphemism for eugenics, the discredited pseudoscience that holds that certain families are fit to be leaders of society by virtue of their
Fetus families for Georgia. Fetal families for Georgia. That means some families are not even supposed to exist. This population control we've been talking about, it started even in the ancient Greek. Ancient Greece. It started. You see all this what they tell you, Plato, this and this, Aristotle. No, those were not the smartest Greeks then. Those were the people they put in, just like if people don't get to hear all these stories 400 years from today, when they are talking about scientists, this and that, you'll be talking about Bill Gates and co. All of those people, they glorified in the ancient Greece, the ancient Greek world. They were all into eugenics. And remember, most of all these European monarchs, a lot of them are related to the people that ran the Greek Empire, who, by the way, morphed into the people that helped run the Roman Empire. And when the Western Roman Empire fell, they still morphed into the Holy Roman Empire. Then, from the Holy Roman Empire, they morphed into the cooperation with the arrival of the Industrial Age. It's the same thing, the same ruling class, the same people since maybe for the past 4,000 years or more. Same people. Fitter families for joy. That means those are the ones that are fit to live, not you, not your friends, your mates are not just you. When you hear about the eugenics in this video, you will marvel, and maybe you start rethinking about your views on these people and how you see them. And this has nothing to do with white people. No, white people are their number one victims. This is the ruling class. The ruling class of Europe. Now they've morphed with the ruling class of China, who are, by the way, the members of the Chinese Public Bureau. And it's coming to a head. Don't worry, you will see. We will start. This is the last Bill Gates video we are doing. You will see the war, the new war with China. No longer a Cold War. You know, they've moved into Indian territory, and now they've annexed Hong Kong. Don't worry, he's going to heat up very soon.
Superior genes. As we saw in Why Big Oil Conquered the World, eugenics was a field named and codified by Francis Galton, cousin of Charles Darwin, ostensibly concerned with heredity and what would later be known as genetics. The eugenicists believed that the rich and powerful were rich and powerful not because of luck or chance or happenstance, and certainly not from the deployment of cutthroat business
This is Rockefeller. This is John D. Rockefeller. This is him. He's into eugenics. Bill Gates is into eugenics too. His father was the president of Planned Parenthood. Now you will see the link between the two families. Just watch.
Tactics and underhanded dealings. No, the rich and powerful had attained their status because they came from better stock. Conversely, the poor were poor because of their defective germplasm. As transparent as it seems to us today that this ideology was a self-serving self-justification for the ruling class, it was quickly taken up as the great social crusade of the early 20th century. From Teddy Roosevelt to H.G. Wells to Julian Huxley to Winston Churchill, there was widespread support for the eugenicist notion that society must strive to make sure that
Winston Churchill, for those of you that still praise him, you know he's from a banking family too. Now you are beginning to understand that your history was written by only a group of people, and the contemporary time is still controlled by those same people. They are descendants. You think they just disappeared? Are you seeing the names? Just like in the ancient Greek world, the Greek Empire, same thing, same people.
That the rich and well-born breed as much as possible, and the poor, infirm, and feeble-minded be prevented from having children. A common eugenicist argument was that the scarce resources of society should not...
The feeble-minded being prevented from having children. Now you know why Planned Parenthood clinics are located in poor neighborhoods, mostly black neighborhoods. Has it changed? It was so in the early 1900s. Guess what is still so today? Go check it. Go figure.
Be used to support the lower classes, as that only encouraged more of their kind. Instead, life-saving medical care and intervention should be rationed so that those resources can be best put to use elsewhere. So-called negative eugenicists even took things further, with some, like famed playwright George Bernard Shaw, even took things further.
Read this. There are times when saving a life is a greater crime than taking one. Please take a moment and read it. I'll leave it for 15 seconds. Then I read. There are times when saving a life is a greater crime than taking one. This is the mindset of the people ruling over you. Someone is asking what type of world are we living in? No, you've been living it for a long time. You are now just getting an idea of what it looks like. You are now beginning to understand it. Now you know when I tell you that most of the things they are giving you, those things are all distractions, distracting you from the real issue. If not for this pandemic, believe me, only a few people will be listening to us here. And if you have 100 viewers, 40 will be calling you a conspiracy nut, calling you names. Guess what? They've disappeared. They are the ones who are depressed, not me, not for one day. Continue.
With some, like famed playwright George Bernard Shaw, calling for people to be called before a state-appointed board to justify their existence or be put to death.
Are you hearing? They will call you before a state board to justify your existence or be put to death. Now, who are the people that will be sitting on that board? Who are the people who will select them? How about we let ordinary people select it and decide who will live and who wouldn't? Would they allow that? No. When you talk about global depopulation agenda, some people think you are joking. When it's already happening. How did we start having a high rate of cancer in Africa? Well, do you know how old I was when I first heard what cancer is? I can just flash back now and remember the first time we started having incessant deaths. When I was growing up, when our landlord died, for years, it was still a talk of the whole neighborhood. In fact, the whole area knew about it, that they heard it. But this time around, someone will just die 2 streets away from you. You don't even notice. Go to your villages. They just put posters. If you people if you have a burial ceremony next 2 weeks and you put your posters today, By Sunday, new ones will cover those ones. Travel from Lagos to Onitsha by land and see how many bodies they are carrying from here. Everywhere you go, every highway. Morgues are never out of business. Tell me a single morgue you know that closed down in the last 20 years. Tell me a single one. When they close here, you see them opening a bigger one because it's business. How did we come to this? How did it get this bad? It's from your food, from your vaccines. You remember how we all were vaccinated in primary school those days? Maybe that's the chicken that just come home to roost. Remember?
But there are an extraordinary number of people whom I want to kill.
But there are extraordinary number of people whom I want to kill. Watch you.
Not in any
unkind, unpersonal spirit, but it must be evident to all of you. You must all know that a dozen people at least who are no use in this world. That means you know at least a dozen people who are of no use to the world. So they should be killed. In other words, how does it mean of no use to the world? Of what use is he to the world? Now you see why they look at you as little ants. They have no regard for you. You must worship them. That's the mindset they cultivated amongst us, that even in 2020, my fellow Nigerians are there defending kings. Really? It's part of the system. It's part of the brainwash. Oh.
kind or personal spirit, but it must be evident to all of you. You must all know half a dozen people at least, who are no use in this world, who are more trouble than they are worth. And I think it would be a good...
Who are more trouble than they are worth. And I think it will be a good thing to make everybody come before a properly appointed board, just as he might watch.
To make everybody come before a properly appointed board, just as he might come before the...
Just as he might come before the income tax commissioner and say every 5 years or every 7 years. Just put him there and say...
Income tax commissioners, and say every 5 years or every 7 years, just put him there and say, sir or madam.
Sir or madam, now you will be kind enough to justify your existence. Now, will you be kind enough to justify your existence like you are supposed to? Your fellow human beings will organize boss and ask you to come and justify your existence. It's a free world, right? Don't worry. Keep fooling yourselves, guys.
Now, will you be kind enough to justify your existence?
But in the post-World War II era, as the name of eugenics became tarred by association with the Nazi atrocities, the talk of death panels and other harsh eugenicist notions was dropped from public conversation. Now, the quest to reduce the size of the poor population was spoken of as population control and reproductive health. Still, occasionally, these old negative eugenics ideas are revisited in moments of candor.
You're raising tuitions at the University of California as rapidly as they can. And so the access that used to be available to the middle class or whatever is just rapidly going away. That's a trade-off society is making because of very, very high medical costs and a lack of willingness to say, you know, is spending $1 million on that last 3 months of life for that patient, would it be better not to lay off those 10 teachers and to make that trade-off in medical costs? But that's called the death panel, and you're not supposed to have that discussion.
The death panel.
It is worth questioning why this man, who openly muses about death panels and the trade-offs of providing healthcare to the elderly, is to be taken completely at face value in his attempts to slow population growth in the third world, or to handle a coronavirus health crisis that primarily affects the elderly. That the Gates agenda is being driven by a eugenicist ideology is suggested by multiple lines of evidence, both historical and current. As we have also seen in Why Big Oil Conquered the World, the Rockefeller family was instrumental in funding and promoting eugenics, both in America and overseas. The Rockefellers helped fund the Eugenics Record Office.
What? The Eugenics Record Office, funded by who? The Rockefeller. You can switch this into the Planned Parenthood Record Office, and it will still mean the same thing. Now go check how much Bill Gates, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, sends to Planned Parenthood every year and abortion clinics all around the world. No free malaria treatment, but free abortion. Okay.
The founding director of the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, William Welch, sat on the ERO's board and helped direct its activities. The Rockefellers sponsored the studies of the eugenics researchers at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institutes in Germany, including Ernst Rudin, who would go on to draft Nazi Germany's forced sterilization law. And, when the American Eugenics Society became embarrassed of its own name, its longtime director, Frederick Osborne, merely took over as president of the Rockefeller-founded Population Council. This dedication to the cause of public health did not escape the approving gaze of Bill Gates Sr. In a chapter of his 2009 book, Showing Up for Life, called Walking with Giants, he writes admiringly of the Rockefellers and their influence in the field. Every corner we've turned in the field of global health.
Every corner we've turned in the field of global health, we found that the Rockefellers were already there and have been there for years. Now you wonder why all the places the Rockefellers used to be, now you find the Gates. Are you seeing it? I told you the guy is a troll. He is a mask someone else is wearing. Are you seeing it? This is Bill Gates' father, Bill Gates Sr. Every corner we've turned in the field of global health, we found that the Rockefellers were already there and had been there for years. Well, you're welcome.
Health, we found that the Rockefellers were already there and had been there for years. When we committed to childhood immunization, we found ourselves building on
When we committed to childhood immunization, we found ourselves building on the efforts the Rockefeller Foundations had helped launch and fund in the 1980s. I was right on the money, my people. I told you so. Didn't I tell you from the first video that they all look alike? The similarity is too glaring. No, it couldn't have been a coincidence. My people, I told you in the first video. Meanwhile, this guy released this video like 2 days ago. I told you, these guys are very easy to spot, and their plans are not too difficult to know. They are just using sheer force, physical violence against the people, and they thrive on the ignorance of the masses. These guys are nobodies. Just the awakening of the mind will finish these people. They will be, when they disappear, you will not know. They will all go hang themselves before the people will get to them. Believe me. God, man.
efforts the Rockefeller Foundation had helped launch and fund in the 1980s. When we became interested in fighting malaria and tuberculosis, we learned that the Rockefellers had been studying the prevention and treatment of such diseases around the globe for, in some cases, as long as 100 years. A similar dynamic held true in the case of HIV/AIDS.
A similar dynamic held true in the case of HIV/AIDS. My people, do you notice how nobody is talking about the origin of HIV/AIDS again? Then it was Botswana and it was Tanzania. Then from Tanzania, it was Kenya. From Kenya, it was Uganda. Meanwhile, until they reported the first case of AIDS before you had a single case in Africa, they've been having it in the USA. It was called gay-related immunodeficiency syndrome, or the deficiency, greed. It was found among gays, mostly in New York, before you ever had the first case in Africa. Now, do you see how, did you notice when it disappeared? How it disappeared, no one knows. That story, we've killed it. Now, if it originated in Africa, why hasn't it killed everybody in Uganda since there is no cure for it? Why hasn't it killed many thousands or even millions before they said they discovered a new virus? No, you allow the first one to lie down, so they will give you another one. Shout from the rooftops. Every group in the world, as soon as their nonsense lockdown ends, there should be a massive protest against these people. Anthony Fauci should be made to answer for this. Maybe we will start talking about what happened to Dr. Sebi. Remember, they were going to give you the cure for HIV/AIDS in the November of the year Dr. Sebi died, and they killed him in August, I think. Since then, they tell you that it's now 9 more years. Okay, we are waiting.
A lesson we learned from studying and working with the Rockefellers is that to succeed in pursuing audacious goals, you need like-minded partners with whom to collaborate. And we learned that such goals are not prizes claimed by the short wind Rockefeller Foundation had helped launch and fund in the 1980s. When we became interested in fighting malaria and tuberculosis, we learned that the Rockefellers had been studying the prevention and treatment of such diseases around the globe for, in some cases, as long as 100 years. A similar dynamic held true in the case of HIV/AIDS. A lesson we learned from
studying and working with, confirmation. A lesson we learned from studying and working with the Rockefellers is that to succeed in pursuing audacious goals, you need like-minded partners with whom to collaborate. Doesn't it sound like what they've been doing before in this video? Cornelius Vanderbilt, Andrew Carnegie, JP Morgan, Rockefeller. Like-minded, what do they mean by like-minded? Do they mean people who are related? Of this class, what's this class that no outsider can pierce through? Does this sound like what was happening in the late 1800s or not? We are talking about the Gilded Age. We are living in the Gilded Age. We are living in the Gilded Age right now. Many people don't know. Read it. Read the quote. Bastards.
From studying and working with the Rockefellers is that to succeed in pursuing audacious goals, you need like-minded partners with whom to collaborate. And we learned that such goals are not prizes claimed by the short-winded. The Rockefellers stay with tough problems for generations. As Gates Sr. suggests, it is by working with like-minded partners that such great achievements in the field of global health can.
George Kamara, if you think you are drinking a Kool-Aid, please, I will post the link as soon as this video is done. You come on video and ask me questions. Don't distract anybody in the comment section. We are not running from anybody, okay? We are not running away from anybody. I will post the link. You come on and ask your questions. Are you understanding me? Don't come and show your stupidity here, else I will block you. I will post the link. You come and ask your questions. No one is holding you from asking your questions. Just let me land, okay?
Can be made. For the Gates, these like-minded partners include the Rockefellers themselves. Bill Gates Sr. got to discuss global health, agriculture, and environment with the likes of David Rockefeller Sr. and David Rockefeller Jr. at a meeting on...
Are you seeing him? Philanthropy in a global century. This is Rockefeller here. This is Bill Gates' father. Are you seeing them? The same modus operandi. Are you catching it? And those of you that are just joining, please, we'll post the full video from the James Colbert of the Colbert Report. You will go and start from the beginning in order not to miss a single thing.
Philanthropy in a Global Century at Rockefeller University campus in 2000. And Bill Gates, as we have seen, co-hosted a meeting on reducing the population with David Rockefeller in 2009. But the most salacious hints of a deeper agenda are not to be found in the Gates' public associations, but in the associations that they have tried to hide from the public.
Jeffrey Epstein may be dead, but this story isn't. A shocking new report from the New York Times sheds light on the connection between Microsoft founder Bill Gates and the late Jeffrey Epstein. After Gates' name came up in connection with...
Watch the Wall Street Journal. Bill Gates is Bill Gates' mind. In Bill Gates' mind, a life of processing. I didn't have any business relationship or friendship with him. That is Jeffrey Epstein, the blackmailer in chief, the Mossad agent that works for the people you call the deep state. When you're talking about Mossad, you are talking about the CIA, the MI6, in fact, the whole Five Eyes Alliance. All these corporate overlords. I tell you, they thrive on blackmail. Please go and study the life of Jeffrey Epstein. Go and check everything about him. Check the Epstein Black Book till date. Till date. A judge is prohibiting people from seeing the names on that list, on that Black Book. His name is there. Just like most scientists, Alan Dershowitz. Jeffrey Epstein, he said he's a stockbroker. He has a hedge fund billionaire. Go and check how many people he was managing their funds. Only one person, Lex Wexner, the owner of Victoria's Secret, a company that is running an open trafficking ring. If you are still using Victoria's Secret, congratulations, you are supporting the trafficking of children. The owner of Victoria's Secret, Lex Wexner, his mansion in New York, all the billions they told you he had when he was alive. Guess what? When he died, they only found out that in his estate it was just a couple of things, less than $1 billion in his name. His ranch in New Mexico. Till date, the FBI has not conducted an official search there or investigation there. The pedophile island is still there. Guess whose name was on that Black Book, also from New Mexico? Bill Richardson, the former governor of New Mexico. Go do your research, Camara George. Camara George, you sit down, take pen and paper and jot things down, okay? You come to some places, respect yourself, don't talk so people will think you're smart. Talking makes a fool of you. Talking means making a fool of yourself. This Jeffrey Epstein, put that story side by side with the DC madam, it means the same thing. And not all the people ranting on the floor of the US Congress, the opponents, the Republicans, the Democrats, all this and that, none of them is ranting about Jeffrey Epstein. Why? Are you getting it? Now you know why most cases Bill Gates will always win them. Even the judges are in their back pockets. Go and check that list. Bill Clinton flew in his plane 26 times. And in most cases, he ditches his Secret Service details, yes, to fly on Lolita Express. It's a story for another day.
With Epstein and MIT Media Lab, Gates gave a statement to the Wall Street Journal where he insisted he did not have any business relationship or...
Are you seeing him? Kamala George, you just stupidly keep watching, okay? Watch him. This is Jeffrey Epstein. This is Bill Gates. Bill Gates met with Jeffrey Epstein many times, despite his past. This is from the New York Times. The failing New York Times, according to one man. And mind you, you are getting it from MSNBC, a supposed news corporation, but it's owned by General Electric. A defense corporation. They own MSNBC. George, people like you should be doing your own independent research first. Don't expect me to feed you like a baby. One more useless comment, I'm blocking your ass here, okay? Do your own research. I told you I will bring you up here. Just come on camera. I don't know if you're watching with a fake account. One more rubbish comment from you, you are gone here.
friendship with Epstein, but new reporting from the New York Times outlines numerous meetings between Gates and Epstein and a conversation with Bill and Melinda Gates' foundation, a connection between their foundation and JP Morgan to set up a charity.
Watch it. Mr. Epstein spoke with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and JP Morgan Chase about a proposed multi-billion-dollar charitable fund, an arrangement that had the potential to generate enormous fees for Mr. Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein.
Charitable fund that would financially benefit Epstein. You know what I want to know? Why?
Story.
Beginning in August of last year, a string of information connecting Bill Gates to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein began to emerge. Flight logs revealed that Gates had flown on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet. An email surfaced showing disgraced MIT Media Lab director Joy Ito, who resigned from his position after it was discovered that he had helped cover up Jeffrey Epstein's identity as an anonymous donor to the lab, informing his staff that a $2 million donation to the lab in 2014.
This is a $2 million gift from Bill Gates, directed by Jeffrey Epstein. Are you getting it? Are you catching it now? Start connecting the dots.
Was a gift from Bill Gates, directed by Jeffrey Epstein. As the story gained momentum, Gates tried to downplay the relationship, with a Gates spokesperson protesting that Gates didn't know it was Epstein's plane.
He didn't know it was Epstein's plane. Tell me a billionaire that will fly on a plane and don't know the owner of the plane, even though he has his. Tell me the billionaire. Look at the cheap lie. This is from The Verge. Gates spokeswoman claims Gates, who owns his own private jet, didn't know it was Epstein's plane. Who are they telling that nonsense? Who are they telling that nonsense? Kai.
And Gates himself insisting that I didn't have any business relationship or friendship with Epstein. This was immediately contradicted by the New York.
Anthony Hezanika said, was he drugged? I don't know if he was drugged though. Watch him, both of them again. Watch both of them again. And he didn't know it belonged to him. Yet not a single journalist, all of them that have been putting him before the camera since this pandemic started, None of them had asked him a question about this. If you've seen where they asked him a question about Jeffrey Epstein in public, please, I'll be willing to have that footage.
Times, who reported in October of 2012 that Gates had in fact met with Epstein on multiple occasions, even going so far as to discuss the creation of a multi-billion-dollar charitable fund with seed money from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And
Mr. Epstein spoke with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and J.P. Morgan Chase. This is a combination of two giants about a proposed multi-billion-dollar charitable fund. This is courtesy of the New York Times. Kamara, are you there?
And J.P. Morgan Chase. According to the Times, Gates emailed his colleagues about Epstein in 2011. His lifestyle is very different and kind of intriguing, although it would not work for me.
Study.
Epstein's will even named Boris Nikolic, a Harvard-trained immunologist who served as the chief scientific advisor to both Microsoft and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and who appears in the sole publicly known photo of Epstein and Gates' 2011 meeting at Epstein's Manhattan mansion, as the backup executor of Epstein's estate.
He is named as the backup executor of Jeffrey Epstein's estate. You hear his name? The J people, still them. I told you these guys are not billionaires until when you remember when J.P. Morgan died? John P. Morgan, when he died, they found out that he actually owned only 17% of the Morgan banking dynasty. The other 83 belonged to who? The same people you are not allowed to mention. Only 17%. Just like when Jeffrey Epstein died, they found out that almost everything belonged to Lex Wexner. And where is Ghislaine Maxwell? Don't worry.
8. It is not difficult to see why Gates would try to distance himself from his relationship with a child sex trafficker. Epstein, after all, is suspected of ensnaring high-ranking politicians, businessmen, and even royalty in an intelligence-directed honeypot operation, recording them in the act of sexually abusing underage girls and using that evidence as blackmail. But, as it turns out, the attempt to suppress the Gates-Epstein story may have been an attempt to suppress the revelation of an altogether different shared interest.
Now, hear this one. It's about transhumanism. Here, this one is about transhumanism. I will not pause it. I'll let it play.
Sources say several accusers have come forward in New Mexico, where Epstein owns a sprawling ranch. According to a new report published in the New York Times, not verified by NBC News, Epstein wanted to use the ranch for controlled breeding, using his DNA to improve humanity. Citing 2 award-winning scientists and an advisor to large companies and wealthy individuals, the article reports Epstein surrounded himself with leading scientists and would tell them he wanted to have 20 women impregnated at a time on the ranch.
The already scarcely believable Jeffrey Epstein story took another bizarre turn in August of 2019, when it was reported that Epstein hoped to seed the human race with his DNA. As the New York Times explained, Epstein's plan to impregnate 20 women at a time at his New Mexico ranch in order to seed the human race with his DNA, a plan he told to a number of the scientific luminaries he kept in his orbit, put a modern gloss on a very old idea. Mr. Epstein's vision reflected his long-standing fascination with what has become known as transhumanism, the science of improving the human population through technologies like genetic engineering and artificial intelligence. Critics have likened transhumanism to a modern-day version of eugenics, the discredited field of improving the human race through controlled breeding. Epstein's interest in genetics led him to sponsor a number of scientists working in the field, including George Church, a Harvard geneticist whose lab received funding from Epstein's foundation from 2005 to 2007 for cutting-edge science. Church publicly apologized for his connection to Epstein, which included several meetings a year from 2014 onward. This was neither the first nor the last time that this unassuming Harvard biologist, whose cutting-edge science often strays into controversial areas, caused a public scandal. In 2019, Church proposed a genetics dating app, which was immediately denounced as applied eugenics. Church also acted as scientific advisor to Editas Medicine, a startup seeking to use the genome editing tool CRISPR-Cas9 to eliminate diseases by deleting the parts of a genetic code responsible for the illness. In 2015, the company announced it had raised $120 million from a group led by Epstein's appointed backup executor, Dr. Boris Nikolic. Naturally, that group of investors included Bill Gates. Yes, Bill Gates is certainly following his father's advice to collaborate with like-minded partners. So the question remains, is Bill Gates motivated by eugenics? Given that eugenics went underground over half a century ago, we are unlikely ever to unearth a frank admission along those lines from Gates himself. After all, there are no longer any card-carrying members of the American Eugenics.
Watch American Eugenics Society. Some people are born to be a burden on the rest. Learn about heredity. You can help to correct these conditions America needs. Are you seeing it? Now you will see the names of those people. Watch.
Society. The society was rebranded in the 1970s when, as the society's founder noted, it became evident that changes of eugenic nature would be made for reasons
Watch Frederick Osborne. It became evident that changes of a eugenic nature would be made for reasons other than eugenics, and that tying a eugenic label on them would more often hinder than help their adoption. Now you saw where they started, when they started changing the names to reproductive health care. Are you seeing it?
Other than eugenics, and that tying a eugenic label on them would more often hinder than help their adoption. But there was an American Eugenics Society in the 1920s, and it just so happened to boast a William H. Gates on it.
This is his father. Are you seeing it? This is his father, the father of Bill Gates. Are you getting it?
Its member roster. But perhaps that is just a coincidence. And there was an American Eugenics Society in the 1960s, when William H. Gates II was preceded as head of Planned Parenthood by Alan Guttmacher, who simultaneously served as the director of the American Eugenics Society. And perhaps it was coincidence that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation organized their London Summit on Family Planning, at which the Gates recommitted themselves to funding population control in the Third World, in July 2012, on the anniversary of the first International Eugenics Congress, held in...
The first one in London, 1912. Now, 100 years later, they held another one. Why weren't there protests the day they were doing this? Because everyone is brainwashed. Even the organizations you think that are supposed to be speaking up against these things, no, even their leaders are all owned. You don't know how strong blackmail is. You don't know how strong it is. Let's continue.
In London exactly 100 years prior. And perhaps it is reaching to compare the young Bill Gates's dating preferences to the genetic-based dating favored by modern-day eugenicists.
I interviewed several women who had dated Bill just briefly, and one told me the very first question Bill asked her was, "What did you score on your SAT test?" You know, this is not...
The people who believe in selective breeding. How do you meet a girl you want to go out with? The first thing you ask her is what she scored in her SAT exam. Are you
Not exactly, you know, what a young woman wants to hear. For Bill Gates, though, he had scored a perfect 800 on his math portion of the SAT, and this was a matter of pride with him, and he wanted to make sure whoever he was dating, you know, had scored a pretty high grade.
No, we cannot expect an answer about Bill Gates' true motives to come from Gates himself. By this point, the question of Bill Gates' intentions has been buried under the combined weight of hundreds of millions of dollars of paid PR spin.
Yes.
Like the Rockefellers before them, the Gates have long since learned the secret of enlarging their family fortune, not to mention their control over the human.
Now watch the houseboy himself, the mango-headed houseboy. I doubt this guy has a Kenyan blood, believe me. Believe me, he looks like the Indonesian man the mother dated. For those of them that will say, hey, I told you, please, I'm not saying that yet. Not yet. Look at this fool with his banana leaf ear. Watch them giving you a reassuring smile in front of the camera. This is the new title of nobility. All this nonsense, this medal, this is the new title of nobility. Just as in the Middle Ages or the first Gilded Age. Same thing.
Population by donning the mask of philanthropy. There are many perspectives on Bill Gates. Depending on who you ask, he is a computer savant, a genius businessman, or a saintly philanthropist. But all of these perspectives have been brought to you through PR outlets founded or funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Bill Gates is no longer a subject for historians, but hagiographers.
Yes.
Now we must confront the question of why this man is motivated to build such a web of control. Control over our public health agencies.
And for all 193 member states, you must make vaccines a high priority in your health systems to ensure that all your children have access to existing vaccines now and to the new vaccines that have recently become available.
Control over our identities.
And the lack of an ID system is a problem, not just for the payment system, but also for voting and health and education and taxation. And so it's a wonderful thing to go in and create a broad identification system.
Control over our transactions.
Once financial flows go underground, where you have lots of legitimate transactions mixed in with the ones you want to track, once they're going over a digital system that the US has no connection to, it's far more difficult to find the transactions that you want to be aware of or that you want to block.
And even control over our bodies.
But we're going to have this intermediate period of opening up, and it won't be normal until we get an amazing vaccine to the entire world.
You see?
We must confront the possibility that this quest for control comes not from a selfless spirit of generosity that never seemed to exist before he became a multi-billionaire, but from the same drive for money, the same desire for domination, and the same sense of superiority that motivated him on his way up the corporate ladder. But if the answer to the question, who is Bill Gates, is Bill Gates is a eugenicist, that tells us some important things about the world that we are living in. It tells us that Gates is deceiving the public into supporting his takeover of the world with a false front of philanthropy. It tells us that the goal of the Gates, like the goal of the Rockefellers before them, is not to improve the world for humankind, but to improve the world for their kind. And most importantly, it tells us that Bill Gates is no comic book supervillain, single-handedly directing all of the chaos that is unfolding in the world, or single-handedly bringing his own order to that chaos. No, if Bill Gates is a eugenicist, driven by a belief in the superiority of himself and his fellow wealthy elitists, then what we are facing is not one man, or even one family, but an ideology.
Yes.
This is not a trivial point. One man, whatever his wealth, can be stopped easily enough. But even if Bill Gates were to be thrown in jail tomorrow, the agenda that has already been set in motion would continue without...
See that SEPI, new vaccine for a safer world. Watch your people, watch all these black men you see here. Who is this one? I need to catch their feet. You see this SEPI? Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and Aliko Dangote are on the... My guys, we don't know exactly what we are up against. And someone was asking me the way forward. The way forward is wake up, inform your people. If anyone enters your community with this their nonsense VV, I'm not telling you to kill someone, but make sure someone spills some red liquid. If possible, help them. Maybe their heads are too heavy. Their shoulders can't carry their heads anymore. Help them separate it. By the time you make example out of 5 people, all of them, the rest will run. Refuse to comply, disobey, and act. If they don't see your fellow poor people that will give it to you, they can't come do it themselves. Yes.
Missing a beat. An entire infrastructure of researchers, labs, corporations, governmental agencies, and public health bodies exists, funded more often than not by Gates, but driven by the belief of all those millions of people working for these various entities that they are truly working in the best interest of the people. No, an ideology cannot be stopped by stopping one man. It can only be stopped when enough people learn the truth about this agenda and the world of total, pervasive control that is coming into view. If you have watched all 4 parts of this exploration on Bill Gates, then you are now one of the most informed people on the planet.
Guys, please go to his YouTube channel. Watch all these videos. I will show you his YouTube channel. Watch all these videos, please. I will show you at the end of the video
the true nature of this agenda. You have seen how the takeover of public health has been used to railroad the world into a headlong rush toward mandatory vaccinations, biometric identification, and digital payments. You have seen how the pieces of this puzzle fit together, and how they represent a far greater threat to the future of humanity than any virus. Here is the good news. Armed with this information, you have the antidote to the scourge of this eugenicist ideology. The truth is that ideologies are viruses of the mind. They spread from person to person, infecting them with ideas that can lead to a disease of the body politic. But here is the even greater truth. Inoculations do work. Inoculations of truth against the lies of those spreading their poisonous ideology. If you have made it this far, it is incumbent on you to help inoculate those around you against the corrupt ideology of Bill Gates and all those who seek to control the population of the world. You must help to spread this information so that others have a chance to see the bigger picture and decide for themselves whether they are willing to roll up their sleeves and accept what is coming or not. But time is not on our side. Even as we speak, mass vaccination campaigns are being prepared.
We are already building our plans to vaccinate the whole city of Chicago and working with others across the region on a major plan for this. We've bought syringes, we've bought cold boxes, we've planned out locations.
Biometric identification schemes and immunity passports are already being rolled out.
And so while we started with travel at our core, we're a biometric secure identity platform where it's always been about attaching your identity to your boarding pass, the airport, or your ticket to get into a sports stadium, or your credit card to buy a beer. And so now with the launch of Clear Health Pass, it's about attaching your identity to your COVID-related health insights for employers, for employees, for customers.
Programs for tracking, tracing, and surveilling the entire population are already being beta tested.
Today, we are launching another useful tool that can supplement the critical detective work we are conducting in public health. Alberta Trace Together is a voluntary, secure, mobile contact tracing application to help prevent the spread of COVID-19.
And the digital payment infrastructure, the system of financial exclusion that will allow governments to turn off our access to the economy at will, is being put into place.
In order to avoid the risk. Wow, yeah, this is Uhuru. My brother, I remember you said something about Uhuru Kenyatta. You see that this guy is a fool, he's a moron, a total waste of his father's sperm. Maybe his father wasn't actually a hero. People from Kenya, please tell me about his father, because I don't believe all this history, all these histories we read in school, please. Yeah, I will post the full video. He has the full video on his this, and I will show you. You go there and share it. So I will share it on the page. I shared this one already, but I will share the one he compiled, the four episodes. Please, someone from Kenya directly, I need you, please give me an objective analysis on this guy's father, because he's already a failure. He's a failure. Look at what he's saying. Moron.
Transmission through physical handling of money. We encourage the use of cashless transactions, such as mobile money, M-Pesa and otherwise, and credit cards.
People are using touchless payment systems much more than they're using cash, both because we're not interacting with people directly as much anymore, and also because cash is kind of skeezy.
We must spread the word about the dark nature of this population control agenda to as many people as we can, before our ability to speak out against this agenda is taken away for good. Thanks to the likes of Bill Gates, the virus of this population control agenda is already here. It is threatening to crash the system as we've known it. But if Bill Gates has taught us anything,
Applications like Word and Excel.
it's how to deal with a virus. It's time for a hard reset.
My people, see the video. Meanwhile, before then, this is my YouTube channel. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ijele Speaks. It will, in case they take down the Facebook page, we come here and regroup. And people on YouTube, thank you. If you are just joining us for the first time, please, I would like you to do me a favor by subscribing to the channel. Now look at the guy's YouTube channel here. Colbert, the Colbert Report. Don't mistake it for mine. This is mine, Ijele Speaks. Please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Then this Colbert Report, when you come here, you click on it, you will see the full video. Where is it? I thought I saw it today. Right, see the 4 videos here. See the 4 videos on Bill Gates. See the 4 videos. This one 2 days ago, 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. See the 4 videos here. You go there and watch it. Then I'll look for the other one where he compiled all of them and post it on the page. Watch it. Colbert Report. This is his YouTube channel. Watch it, the Colbert Report here, but just write Colbert Report. You'll see it. James Colbert. And this is mine, Ijele Speaks. Those of us on Facebook, please go subscribe to my YouTube channel, because this Facebook account may go down at any time, so you don't miss a thing. Where is that normie? We had a normie here. All these normal mainstream intelligence guys. Oh yeah. George Kamara, please, it's time. Use the link. George Kamara, here is the link. You are welcome. You are welcome on board. Please follow the link. You can click on the link, put it on your browser, then come on here. We are waiting for you. Hello.
Ijele.
Hello.
Hello, Ijele.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Good evening. I can hear you.
Yeah. I mean, this is wonderful. This is nice. Look, I'm not even here to criticize you. Me, I'm not one of those. I'm just here to tell you my take and also to encourage you about what you're doing. Speaking of the book you're talking about, I don't want to mention the name. The social media you're talking about. Do you people know where that boy is from? Do you know that that boy is Nuremberg?
The one we are using is the platform.
Yeah. Do you know he's from the Nuremberg family?
I don't know if he's number, but I know he's a J gang. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know that one.
he's a J guy. So
Yeah.
and spare me that crap about these people dropped out from the university. Hello, can't you can't you just read between the line? Even if they drop out from the university, that's to tell you that they are the ones that created it and they don't have time for that crap.
Yes.
That's to tell you that they are the ones that created it. So now real people are coming out to tell you that this your VV, it has features inside of it. They're telling you that this your VV, they have the plant parenthood tissues inside of it. They're telling you that this your VV is causing autism. They're telling you all of that. Then that your God-forsaken guy that is in Lagos is telling you guys that you have to take it. I'm talking your baby freeze.
Baby freeze. Yes, thank you.
Real human beings are telling you, people that have worked in the laboratory, they are telling you that this is why they quit doing the job. That guy, you see, there's something about sitting with a clean heart on ignorance, right? I will understand. But there is something, and there is another thing about making an assertion like you were there when they were creating the VV, and you are telling us that if we don't take it well, you will see what is going to happen. So that makes me to begin to look at this guy. I understand it. Look, what I've come to realize is that blind spot brings a whole lot of money. All those people that go to the church, they don't understand what is going on. So when that baby guy comes up and read that books for them, it's a blind spot that makes him relevant. And I was like, I was happy about it that, okay, good. Tell these people, because the rabbit hole is deep. At least start from somewhere by knowing something. But the time is now a matter. You see, that one has to do with economics. It has to do with your pockets. Now it is now a matter of life and death. I have a problem with him.
Yes.
A huge problem. So, Ijele, please keep going on with your expose. These things are phenomenal. These things are wonderful. God bless you, man.
Bro. Thank you, you too. Thank you. Good night. Yeah. Yes. Baby freeze. You people tell him, a moron. At this point, that guy is a danger to public health. Yes. If you are still propagating this nonsense, you are a danger to public health, and you should be treated as a virus, which is what you are. That guy is a threat to our very existence. He should be treated as such. Tell him. I don't know if he ever asked questions about what people are. This VV we are talking about, do you know how many people they've paid damages to over this VV? Please, George Kamara, copy the link. Come in, please. We are waiting for you. George Kamara, here's the link again. Please, come on. We are waiting for you. Come here and educate us, please. You want us to show you the money? Okay, come now. We'll show you the money. I'm waiting for you, and you have to appear on video. You have to enable your video. We'll see the person we are speaking with. If it will warrant me boosting this video, I will boost it, and I'll make sure it gets to everywhere in your country. So they see you and see how smart you are. The link is there. Oh, you used to listen to Daddy Freeze. Daddy Freeze is not saving people. He is he is entrapping them. It's an entrapment. You think you're getting somewhere? No, you are just running around the circle. Baby Freeze. People should desist from listening to that guy. That puppy, that sick puppy. I told you he showed his hands the day he interviewed Johnson Suleboy. I saw, see finish happened that day. My people, it seems Mr. George has run away like the rest of them. People, please, this is my YouTube channel, Ijele Speaks. Go and subscribe to it. Those on YouTube, I thank you so much. Please make sure you thumb up the video. It helps me. It helps get the video up in the recommended section. Please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done that. Those on YouTube, will thank you so much for joining us. We'll be ending the YouTube stream right now. Oh, it's been very long. Oh, wow. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on YouTube. We have to end the YouTube stream right now.